The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. In the year 2247, they finally had their answer, and the answer was terrifying. It had been only 6 months since the first human ship traveled faster than light. The scientists called it the fold drive because it folded space like a piece of paper. One moment you were near Earth, the next moment you were light years away. It was the greatest achievement in human history. Humanity moved fast. They always did. Within weeks of the first successful test, colony ships were being built. Within months, the first human settlement outside the solar system was established on a world they named New Eden. It was a beautiful planet with blue oceans and green forests. 10,000 people called it home. Ambassador was on New Eden when the sky turned dark. She was a tall woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent 30 years negotiating peace between nations on Earth. Now she was supposed to help build a new civilization among the stars. But when she looked up that morning, she knew everything had changed. Ships filled the sky, hundreds of them, then thousands. They were enormous, each one the size of a small city. They blocked out the sun and cast shadows over the entire colony. The colonists ran into the streets, pointing and screaming. Some fell to their knees and prayed. Did not scream or pray. She simply watched and waited. She had seen enough in her life to know that panic never helped anyone. The message came an hour later. It was broadcast on every frequency in every human language all at once. The voice was cold and strange, like wind moving through a metal pipe. Humans of Earth, you have been found, you will answer. 3 days later stood in a room that should not exist. The aliens had created it just for this meeting. The walls were made of light, shifting and changing colors. The floor felt solid but looked like empty space. It was meant to impress and intimidate. It worked. Before her floated sovereign, the speaker of the Galactic Concord Council, was not like anything had ever seen. The alien was made of crystal or something like crystal. Light moved inside its body like blood. When it spoke, the words seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You are the voice of your species?" asked. "I am Ambassador. I speak for the United Earth Council." "Then you will hear our judgment." Raised one crystalline limb, and suddenly the room was filled with images. Star maps, documents in languages could not read, records going back thousands of years. "The Galactic Concord has governed this region of space for 60,000 years, said. "We are 12 species united in purpose. We maintain order, we preserve peace, we control the pathways between stars." The images shifted to show human ships, the Fold Drive, New Eden. "Your species has violated 17 treaties," continued. "You have claimed worlds without permission. You have developed faster-than-light travel without license. You have expanded beyond your birth system without sanction." Kept her voice steady. "We did not know these treaties existed. We did not know you existed." "Ignorance is not a defense. The law is the law." "What law? We never agreed to any law." His crystal body pulsed with light. It might have been anger, it might have been amusement, could not tell. "Every species agrees to our law," said. "Some agree willingly, others agree after they understand the alternative." "And what is the alternative?" The room went dark. Then a new image appeared, a planet green and alive covered with cities. The image changed. The same planet, but now it was burning, then it was dead. Then it was gone, replaced by empty space. They asked the same question, said. 40,000 years ago, they no longer ask questions. Felt cold, but she did not look away. "What do you want from us?" "You will surrender all vessels capable of faster-than-light travel. You will dismantle your orbital stations. You will abandon your colonies. You will return to your birth world and remain there under conquered observation. You will not leave your system again until we decide you are ready." "And if we refuse?" Moved closer. Up close could see things moving inside the crystal, tiny lights like thoughts made visible. "Your species has 47 ships. We have 400,000. Your weapons are primitive. Your defenses are meaningless. If you refuse, your species will join you will become a memory, and then you will become nothing." Thought about Earth. 8 billion people who had no idea what was happening. She thought about her children, She thought about all the dreams humanity had carried into the stars. "I need time," she said. "I must consult with my government." "You have 7 days." "That is not enough. The governments of Earth must debate, must vote. Our system requires time." Your system is irrelevant. 7 days. On the 8th day, we will have your answer. If the answer is not acceptable, we will provide our own solution. The room began to fade, was dismissing her. Wait, said, why do this? We are no threat to you. We just want to explore, to grow, to learn. Paused. For a moment, the alien almost seemed curious. Every species says this in the beginning: exploration, growth, learning. But we have watched civilizations rise for 60,000 years. We know what comes next: ambition, competition, war. We learned long ago that the only way to maintain peace is to control growth. Your species will be controlled one way or another. And if we prove you wrong, what if we are different? Slight pulsed again. This time was certain it was amusement. You are not different. No species is different. You are young and foolish and full of hope. In time you will learn or you will die. Those are the only options the universe offers. The room disappeared. Found herself standing on the surface of New Eden alone, staring up at the sky still filled with ships. 7 days. Humanity had 7 days to decide its fate. She activated her communication device and sent a message to Earth. It was only 3 words, but they would change everything. We have a problem. Earth had never been truly united. For all of human history, nations had fought over land, resources, and ideas. Even now, in the age of starships, old divisions remained. The United Earth Council was more of a suggestion than a government. Countries still argued, leaders still disagreed. But when Ambassador's message reached Earth, something changed. For 2 days, the world watched the footage from New Eden. They saw the alien ships blocking out the sun. They heard sovereigns' cold demands. They understood, perhaps for the first time, that humanity was very small and the universe was very large. Some people panicked. There were riots in several cities. Religious leaders declared the end times had come. Stock markets crashed. Millions of people simply sat in their homes and waited. The governments reacted in different ways. The European Federation called for immediate negotiation. The American Union demanded a military response. The Asian coalition suggested surrender might be the choice. For 48 hours, the world's leaders screamed at each other while the clock counted down. Secretary General watched it all from his office in Geneva. He was a quiet man, not tall, not impressive to look at. He had been a teacher before he was a politician, and he still thought like one. He believed in patience, in listening, in finding solutions that others could not see. On the 3rd day, he received a message marked absolute priority. It came from a research facility beneath the Swiss Alps, a place so secret that most world leaders did not know it existed. Sir, the message said, we need to show you something. It may change everything. Flew to the facility that night. He was met at the entrance by Dr., a Nigerian physicist with wild gray hair and eyes that seemed to look through walls. She led him through miles of underground tunnels to a room filled with screens and equations that made no sense to him. Tell me, said, tell me you have something. Smiled. It was not a comforting smile. It was the smile of someone who had discovered something wonderful and terrible at the same time. Secretary General, do you understand how our fold drive works? Vaguely, it folds space. It lets us travel faster than light. Yes and no. The fold drive does not actually fold space. It moves through something else, a dimension that exists alongside our own. We call it subspace. Think of it as an ocean beneath the ocean of normal space. When we activate the drive, we sink into this ocean, travel through it, and then rise back up somewhere else. I understand, but what does this have to do with our situation? Pulled up a new image on the screen. It showed the paths that the conquered ships used to travel between stars. The paths were curved lines, following specific routes. The conquered species travel through subspace too, but they travel differently. They follow lanes, fixed paths through the dimension. They have used these lanes for 60,000 years. Every species they have encountered uses the lanes. She pulled up another image. This one showed human ships, their paths cutting straight through subspace in random directions. We do not use the lanes. We never learned they existed. We just point our ships where we want to go and fold. Frowned. If the lanes are the safe way to travel, why do our ships survive? That is the question, Secretary General. That is the question that changes everything. Spent the next hour explaining. The conquered believed that subspace was dangerous outside the lanes. They had records going back tens of thousands of years showing ships that left the lanes and never returned. Every species in the conquered was taught from birth that the lanes were the only safe paths. But humanity had traveled outside the lanes hundreds of times. They had lost no ships to the dangers the conquered feared. Either we are impossibly lucky, said, or the danger does not exist, or the danger is fake, finished. Not fake, created. I believe the conquered manufactured the dangers outside the lanes. They seeded subspace with traps with things that destroy ships. They control the lanes because they control what happens outside them. Sat down, his legs felt weak. Why would they do this? Control, power. If you are the only ones who know the safe paths, everyone must come to you. Everyone must follow your rules. Everyone must obey. And we accidentally discovered the truth, because we were too ignorant to know we should be afraid. Yes. Was silent for a long time. Outside this room, the world was falling apart. Leaders were fighting. People were dying in the streets. The conquered fleet was waiting for an answer. And here in this secret place, a small group of scientists had discovered that the entire galactic order was built on a lie. Can we use this? He asked finally. Not yet. We need more data. We need proof. We need time. We have 4 days. Then we need to buy more time. Stood up, he walked to the window that looked out over the underground facility. Hundreds of scientists worked below, running experiments, building machines. Humanity's minds working in secret. We cannot fight them, he said slowly. We cannot surrender to them, but maybe we do not have to do either. What are you thinking? Turned to face her. His eyes were calm, but something burned behind them. 60,000 years ago, the conquered learned to control the galaxy. They became masters of the game, but they have been playing the same game for so long that they have forgotten something important. What? The rules can change, and if we cannot win their game, then we will not play it. We will run. Run where? Everywhere, nowhere. Into the parts of subspace they cannot follow. We take every human being, every ship, every piece of technology we have, and we disappear. We hide in the places they fear. We learn their secrets. We find others like us, species they have destroyed or hidden. And when we are ready, when we know enough, we come back. Stared at him. You are talking about evacuating Earth, 16 billion people. Yes. It is impossible. Perhaps, but the alternative is extinction or slavery. I would rather attempt the impossible than accept either of those. On the 7th day, the conquered fleet moved toward Earth's orbital stations. They expected to find a broken species, ready to surrender. They found nothing. Every station was empty. Every ship was gone. 16 billion human beings had vanished into the void, leaving behind only a single message, broadcast on every frequency. We reject your terms. We reject your law. We reject your game. Find us if you can. Sovereign received the message in silence. For the first time in thousands of years, the crystal being felt something it did not recognize. It felt uncertainty. The hunt for humanity had begun. The darkness of space had never felt so empty. Captain stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Mombasa and watched the stars drift past. They were stars no human had ever seen before, in a region of space no map had ever shown. Behind her, 3,000 people lived in metal corridors, eating recycled food, breathing recycled air, wondering if they would ever see Earth again. It had been 6 months since the exodus began. 6 months of running, hiding, and dying. The escape from Earth had been chaos. 47 ships were not enough to carry 16 billion people. But humanity had done it anyway. They had built new ships in secret. They had converted cargo vessels into living spaces. They had packed people into every available corner, sometimes 100 to a room. And when the conquered fleet arrived to enforce their ultimatum, they found only ghosts. The Exodus Armada, as they called themselves, had scattered in every direction. Some ships went together in groups, others went alone. The plan was simple: hide in the parts of subspace the conquered feared, learn what they could, and survive. Many did not survive. Had watched 12 ships die in the first month. Some were caught by conquered hunter fleets. Others fell victim to the traps hidden in subspace, the things Doctor had warned them about. One ship, the Heirs, simply vanished. Its signal disappeared one day and never returned. The New Mombasa had been lucky. They had found a quiet region of subspace, a place where the currents were calm and the conquered's traps seemed thin. They had settled into a routine of careful exploration, never staying in one place too long, always watching for enemies. But luck never lasted forever. "Captain," her first officer said, "we are picking up a signal." "Conquered." "No, it is old, very old, and it is not in any language we know." Leaned forward. A shape was emerging from the darkness. It was a ship, but not like any ship she had seen. It was organic, curved, covered in patterns that might have been writing or might have been art. It was also clearly dead, drifting without power or purpose. "How old?" she asked. "The computer estimates at least 10,000 years. 10,000 years. Before humanity had discovered fire, this ship had been flying between stars. And now it floated here forgotten, a ghost from an age no one remembered. "Send a boarding team," ordered, carefully. What they found inside changed everything. The ship belonged to a species called like humans, they had discovered faster-than-light travel on their own. Like humans, they had refused to submit to the conquered. Unlike humans, they had failed. The conquered had hunted them for 200 years. They had destroyed their worlds, killed their people, erased their history. The few survivors had fled into the depths of subspace, hiding in places so dangerous that even the conquered would not follow. The dead ship contained records, libraries, history, science, everything they had learned in a million years of existence, preserved in crystal memory cores that still worked after 10,000 years. And the records told a terrible truth. The dangers of subspace were not natural. The conquered had created them. They had seeded the dimension with predators, with traps, with things that existed only to kill. They had done it 40,000 years ago, when they were young and afraid and determined to control everything. The lanes, the safe paths that every species followed, were the only routes the conquered had left clear. Any species that tried to travel independently would die. And so every species became dependent on the conquered. Every species obeyed. "They built a cage," said quietly, reading the records. "A cage for the entire galaxy." "And they put us in it," her first officer agreed. But the records contained something else, hope. They had not all died. Some had survived. They had found a place in subspace so twisted, so strange, that the conquered could not reach them. A pocket universe hidden between dimensions. They called it the refuge, and they had lived there for 10,000 years waiting. "Waiting for what?" "For someone like us," a new voice said. Spun around. Standing in the doorway was a being she had never seen before. It was tall and thin, with skin like polished wood and eyes that glowed with soft blue light. It moved without sound, and when it spoke, its voice was like music. "I am keeper of we have watched you for many months, humans. We had to be sure you were not conquered spies. Now we are sure." "How did you find us?" "We have listened to subspace for 10,000 years. We heard your ships when they first arrived. So clumsy, so loud, so wonderfully alive." Moved closer. Behind it, more were appearing, stepping out of shadows that should not have contained them. "You are the first species in 40,000 years to escape the conquered's trap. You are the first to discover the truth on your own. We have been waiting for you." "Waiting for us to do what?" Smiled, at least thought it was a smile. "To finish what we could not, to break the cage, to free the galaxy." Over the next year, humanity and the worked together. They shared their knowledge of subspace, their understanding of the conquered's traps, their maps of safe passages through the dangerous regions. Humanity shared something they had lost long ago: hope, energy, and the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Other species joined them. Who the conquered claimed to have destroyed had also survived in small numbers. The Meridian, all survivors of the conquered's wars, all hiding in the darkness, all waiting. Together, they began to plan. The conquered's power was built on one thing: secrets. They controlled the galaxy because no one knew the truth. The lanes were safe only because the conquered made everywhere else dangerous. Their authority was a lie, repeated so often that everyone believed it. "So we tell the truth," Secretary General said at the first meeting of the new alliance. "We show every species in the galaxy what the conquered really is. We give them the maps, the evidence, the proof, and then we let them decide." "The conquered will try to stop you," warned. "Let them try. We have run long enough. It is time to run towards something instead of away." In the shadows of subspace, in hidden corners of the universe, humanity prepared for war. Not a war of weapons and armies, but a war of truth. And truth, they knew, was the most dangerous weapon of all. Sovereigns stood before the Galactic Conquered Council and declared victory. 3 years had passed since the humans fled. 3 years of hunting, searching, and destroying. The Conquered's fleets had found debris fields in dead regions of space. They had recovered frozen bodies from broken ships. They had traced distress signals that led to empty wreckage. The humans were gone. "The threat has been eliminated," announced. The crystal being's voice filled the great chamber where the 12 elder species gathered. "As with the and all others who challenged our order, humanity has learned the cost of defiance. The galaxy remains at peace." The council members nodded in agreement. They were ancient beings, each one representing a species that had ruled stars for tens of thousands of years. They had seen countless young species rise and fall. Humanity was just another lesson, another example for future civilizations to study. But across the galaxy, something was about to change. On 17 worlds, in 17 different star systems, small devices began to activate. They had been placed in secret over the past year, hidden by human agents who had slipped through conquered space disguised as traders and refugees. Each device was the size of a human fist. Each device contained a simple transmitter. At exactly the same moment, they all began to broadcast. Every screen on every conquered world flickered. Every communication system was interrupted. Every species, from the lowest worker to the highest leader, suddenly found themselves looking at a human face. Secretary General looked older now. His hair had turned white. His face was lined with years of stress and hard decisions, but his eyes were bright and his voice was strong. "Citizens of the Conquered," he said, "we are not dead, we are here, and we have something to show you." The image changed. Star maps appeared, but not like any maps the Conquered had ever released. These showed the true shape of subspace with all its dangers clearly marked. The traps, the predators, the kill zones that made travel outside the lanes so deadly. "These are the creations of your masters," continued. 40,000 years ago, the Conquered seeded subspace with weapons. They made the galaxy dangerous so that you would need them. They control you because they made you afraid. The maps changed again. Now they showed safe paths, routes that avoided the dangers, ways to travel freely without using the lanes. "This is what they hid from you. This is the truth. You do not need the lanes, you do not need the Conquered. The cage they built around you has always had open doors, they just never let you see them." In the council chamber, watched in horror as the broadcast continued. The crystal being tried to shut it down, but the signal was everywhere. It was being rebroadcast by millions of devices across conquered space. Every attempt to block it only spread it further. "Who we are does not matter," said. "What matters is that you now have a choice. You can continue to obey, to follow, to fear. Or you can take these maps, verify them for yourselves, and decide what kind of galaxy you want to live in." The broadcast ended. The screens returned to normal, but nothing was normal anymore. Within hours, the Conquered's communication networks were overwhelmed. Species that had never spoken to each other were suddenly sharing information. Scientists on 100 worlds were analyzing the maps, testing the claims, running their own experiments. And they were finding the truth. On the world of Praxis, a young engineer named secretly built a ship using the new maps. He flew outside the lanes, into regions his people had been taught to fear. He found nothing dangerous. He found only empty space and distant stars and freedom. He returned home and shared his findings. Others followed. On the crystal worlds of the, questions began to be asked. Young ones wondered why the elders had lied. Old records were examined. Secrets that had been buried began to surface. On every world, the same conversations happened. Why had the Conquered hidden this? What else had they lied about? What would happen if the lanes were no longer necessary? The answer to the last question frightened the council most of all. Without the lanes, species could travel freely. They could trade with each other without Conquered oversight. They could form alliances without Conquered approval. They could live without Conquered control. The Conquered's power was evaporating like water in sunlight. Called an emergency session of the council. The 12 elder species gathered, but for the first time in 60,000 years, they did not gather in confidence. They gathered in fear. "We must find the humans," declared. "We must destroy them before they can do more damage." "How?" another council member asked. "They are ghosts. They appear and disappear at will. They travel in regions we cannot follow, and every day more of our subjects join them. Then we close the borders, we increase patrols, we punish those who question. We cannot punish 100 billion citizens. We cannot watch every ship. The truth is already out. You cannot put it back. His crystal body pulsed with angry light. Then what do you suggest? The council was silent. None of them had an answer. For 60,000 years, they had controlled the galaxy through secrets and fear. Now the secrets were exposed and the fear was fatting. They did not know how to lead in any other way. In the depths of subspace, Secretary-General received reports of the chaos spreading through conquered space. He sat in his small cabin aboard the refugee ship New Hope and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. But only a moment. The hard part was still ahead. The message worked, Doctor said, entering his cabin. The Conquered is falling apart. Half their fleet is chasing ghosts. The other half is trying to control riots on their own worlds. And the subject species? Confused, angry, hopeful. They are starting to travel outside the lanes. Some are making contact with each other. A few are even trying to find us. Nodded slowly. Then it is time for the next step. Are you sure? Once we show ourselves, there is no going back. There was never any going back. From the moment they gave us that ultimatum, our only choices were forward or death. He stood up, feeling every one of his 73 years. Contact the fleet. Tell them to prepare. We are going to Conquered Prime. Stared at him. That is the heart of their power. They will have 1,000 ships guarding it. I know, but we are not going there to fight. We are going there to talk, and talking is something they have forgotten how to do. They may simply destroy us. They may, but I do not think they will. They have spent 60,000 years controlling through fear. They do not know how to handle an enemy who is not afraid. Walked to the window of his cabin and looked out at the strange colors of subspace. Somewhere out there, 16 billion humans were waiting. Survivors of a 3-year exodus, living in ships and hidden stations and borrowed refuges. They had lost millions along the way. They had suffered in ways no one would ever fully understand. But they had survived, and now they were going home. Not as refugees, not as supplicants, not as a conquered species begging for mercy. They were going home as something new, something the galaxy had never seen. They were going home as equals. The Exodus Armada emerged from subspace like ghosts becoming solid. There were 200 ships now, not just the original 47. Some were human vessels built in secret during the 3 years of hiding. Others belonged to and the other survivor species who had joined humanity's cause. Together, they formed a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had seen. And they appeared directly above Conquered Prime. The great station hung in space like a jewel made of light and metal. It was the oldest structure in the Conquered, built 60,000 years ago when the 12 elder species first came together. Every major decision in galactic history had been made within its walls. Every war had been declared here. Every peace had been signed here. Now, for the first time, it was surrounded by ships that did not bow to its authority. Sovereign watched from the council chamber as the human fleet took position. The Conquered's defense fleet outnumbered them 10-1. A single order would destroy them all. But did not give the order. Because the humans had not come with weapons charged. They had come with an open communication channel and a simple request. We wish to speak, Ambassador said. Her face appeared on every screen in the council chamber. Not as enemies, not as subjects, as equals. His crystal body pulsed with colors that no human could interpret. Anger, confusion, something that might have been respect. You have caused chaos across our territories, the Sovereign said. You have destroyed 60,000 years of peace. You have turned our subjects against us. And now you come here asking to talk. Yes. Why should we not simply destroy you? Smiled. It was a tired smile. The smile of someone who had seen too much and survived anyway. Because destruction is all you know, and it is not working anymore. Half your subjects are already traveling outside the lanes. Your authority weakens every day. In a year, maybe less, the Conquered will fall apart whether we exist or not. That is a lie. It is the truth, and you know it. You built your power on secrets and fear. The secrets are exposed. The fear is fatting. You can destroy us today, but you cannot destroy what we have already done. The truth is out. It cannot be taken back. Was silent for a long moment. The other council members watched, waiting. None of them spoke, none of them knew what to say. "What do you want?" finally asked. "A new beginning, not the end of the conquered, but its transformation. You have knowledge and experience that no young species can match. That has value, but control through fear does not work anymore. We offer you a choice, evolve or collapse. We would prefer evolution." The negotiation lasted 9 months. It was the longest and most difficult negotiation in galactic history. There were moments when everything almost fell apart, walked out 3 times. Ambassador collapsed from exhaustion twice. Species that had hated each other were forced to sit in the same room and find common ground. But slowly, painfully, agreement was reached. The conquered would remain, but it would no longer rule. It would become a council of equals, where every species had a voice, not just the 12 elders. The lanes would stay open for those who wished to use them, but travel outside the lanes would be permitted. The traps and predators in subspace would be dismantled, a process that would take decades but would eventually make the entire galaxy accessible. The survivor species, the and others, would be welcomed back into galactic society. Their history would be remembered, not erased. The conquered's crimes would be acknowledged, not hidden. It was not a perfect agreement. Many on both sides were unhappy. The conquered called it surrender. Radicals among the humans called it not enough. But it was a beginning, and beginnings were what mattered. Secretary General did not live to see the final treaty signed. He died 6 months before the end of negotiations, on the bridge of the New Hope, surrounded by children who had been born during the Exodus and had never seen Earth. His heart simply stopped one night while he slept. The doctors said he was exhausted, worn out by 3 years of running and another year of fighting for peace. His last words were recorded by his assistant. "Tell them we are coming home, and tell them to leave the light on." The treaty was signed on the anniversary of the day humanity received the conquered's ultimatum. Ambassador, now 70 years old, placed her signature beside Sovereign's mark. Around her, representatives of 100 species watched in silence. "It is done," said. The crystal being's voice held no emotion, but something in its light had changed. "The old order ends, a new one begins." "Yes," agreed, "and none of us know what it will look like. That is frightening." "It is also necessary. Perhaps we have been afraid for too long." When the Exodus Armada finally returned to Sol, they found Earth waiting. The planet hung in space exactly as they had left it, blue and green and beautiful. The 16 billion who had fled were now closer to 15 billion, the rest lost to the hard years of running. But those who survived carried something with them that could not be measured. They carried the knowledge that they had faced the impossible and won. Not through strength, not through violence, but through stubbornness, cleverness, and the simple refusal to accept that the rules could not be changed. 50 years later, a young historian from one of the conquered species traveled to Earth to interview Ambassador. She was in her 90s now, living in a small house by the ocean, watching waves that reminded her of the currents of subspace. "Looking back," the historian asked, "what do you think made the difference? How did humanity survive when so many others were destroyed?" Was quiet for a long time. She looked out at the ocean, at the sky, at the stars that were just becoming visible in the evening light. "You cornered us," she said finally. "That was your mistake. Every other species you encountered, you gave them a choice, submit or die. They could see surrender as wisdom. But you gave us no way to surrender with dignity, no path forward that was not total subjugation, so we had nothing to lose." She turned to face the historian. Her eyes were old and tired, but something burned behind them still. "You should never corner something that has nothing to lose, because that is when it stops playing your game and starts playing its own." The historian recorded her words and left. Years later, those words would be taught in schools across the galaxy. They would be quoted by leaders and revolutionaries and dreamers who refused to accept that the way things were was the way things had to be. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, humanity continued to explore. Not because they had to, not because anyone forced them, but because the stars had always called to them, and now, finally, they were free to answer. The game had changed, and humanity had helped change it.